When you think about India's progress, you probably picture these booming, shiny cities, right? But today, we're going to look at the nation's real engine room, its villages. We're going to dig into what it really takes to build a country from the ground up.
You know, this idea isn't new. It comes from Mahatma Gandhi, who famously said that India's soul lived in its villages. He believed true progress wasn't about skyscrapers, but about strengthening the very foundation of the nation. And that vision, well, it raises a super critical question for today. In our world of megacities and buzzing tech hubs, why should we still care so much about what happens in a village? Well, the answer really boils down to one single, staggering number. Get this, more than 2/3 of India's entire population still depends on agriculture. But here's the thing, for way too many people, that dependence is a real struggle. Even with all the nation's growth, a quarter of the rural population is still living in poverty. So the scale of the challenge we're talking about here, it's just massive.
So that's our starting point, the sheer scale and, honestly, the critical importance of India's rural heartbeat.
Okay, so when we use this term rural development, what are we actually talking about? Because let me tell you, it is a whole lot more than just farming.
At its core, rural development is basically this huge, all-encompassing plan to lift up the areas that have been left behind. And the goal isn't just about growing more crops, it's about improving the entire quality of life for millions and millions of people.
And this isn't a one-trick pony. We're talking about tackling challenges on so many different fronts at the same time. You've got human resources, things like education and healthcare, but also the real nuts and bolts, like roads, electricity, and making sure people can actually get a loan. It's the whole shebang. All right, let's dive into two of the biggest game changers here, money and markets. How people get credit and sell what they produce, that can literally be the difference between being empowered and being trapped in debt.
See, if you go back in time, farmers were often stuck in this awful debt trap. They had to borrow from local moneylenders who, let's be honest, were charging insane interest rates and messing with the books to keep them in debt forever. But then, a huge shift started around 1969, with a big push to bring formal banks right into the villages. But there was a catch, a big one. Formal banks, they usually want collateral, something valuable to back up the loan. And this just automatically shut out the poorest families. This is where a truly game-changing idea came into play, self-help groups, or SHGs. And the impact? It has been absolutely phenomenal. By 2019, you had nearly 6 crore women, that's 60 million people, who were members of over 54 lakh of these groups. They pool their tiny savings together, lend to each other, and create this incredible microcredit movement. It's about money, for sure, but it's also about a powerful social support network. And if you want a fantastic example of this in action, look no further than the Kudumbashri program in Kerala. Its name means prosperity of the family, and that's exactly what it's done. It started small, as a savings group for poor women, and has grown into one of the biggest informal banks in all of Asia, empowering whole communities. Now, the other side of the coin is the market itself. For ages, farmers were getting a raw deal, dealing with crooked scales and prices that were totally manipulated. So the government stepped in with some key fixes, setting up regulated markets for transparency, building warehouses so crops don't spoil, and bringing in policies like the minimum support price to create an income safety net. Okay, so fixing money and markets is huge, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. Relying just on crops is so risky, one bad monsoon can wipe you out. This brings us to the next crucial strategy for rural stability, diversification. Put simply, this is all about creating opportunities outside of traditional farming. It's about building a portfolio of income streams, so families aren't putting all their eggs in one basket, a basket that can be smashed by a single bad rainy season. And you know what? A massive part of this diversification story is livestock. It provides a steady alternative income for over 7 crore, that's 70 million small farmers. And you can see here, poultry is the giant, making up the lion's share, but cattle, goats, and sheep are all super important parts of this economic safety net. And it's not just about animals. We're seeing other really vital sectors pop up too. Fisheries have become a major industry. And horticulture, we're talking fruits, veggies, flowers, has just exploded. India is now a world leader in things like mangoes and bananas, and this sector provides really well-paying work, especially for women. And these images, they just perfectly capture that mix. On one hand, you have a traditional activity, like processing sugarcane into jaggery. And on the other, the massive organized livestock sector. It's this blend of different income streams, big and small, that builds real economic strength. So, all of this progress brings us to a really important question about the future. For rural India to be truly prosperous, it also has to be sustainable. And that brings us to our final topic, the rise of organic farming. You know, for the longest time, conventional farming has been all about chemical fertilizers and pesticides. But as we all get more aware of the harm they do to our health and the environment, a new path is opening up, organic farming. And this isn't just about not using chemicals. It's a whole system designed to work with nature, not against it.
And I really want to stress, this isn't just some trendy niche thing. Organic farming offers a real, viable path to long-term environmental health and food security. It's a technology that could really redefine the entire future of rural India.
And all of this leaves us with one last really powerful thought. As India continues on its incredible journey of progress, where will its future ultimately be written? In the glass towers of its cities? Or will it be rediscovered in the resilience, the innovation, in the quiet strength of its villages? The story is still being written,